Usually I tell our team there's a 24-hour rule when you lose a game, and if I'm being honest, it's taken me a lot longer to get over that last one. Again, credit to Cal, but when you have 4 turnovers, you give up 7 sacks, 14 points off of special teams miscues. We had 2 missed assignments on defense that led to touchdowns, and even with that, with 2 minutes left, we had a chance to win the game. So, you win as a team, you lose as a team. I told the team afterwards, I don't think there's any position group or any side of the ball that can say, hey, we did our job today. And again, the heart and fight of our football team, you can never question. I mean, to be down like we were and to play like we did and still have a chance to come back and win it. But when you play with fire, sometimes you're going to get burnt. And we've played with fire too much this year, and sometimes we've been fortunate to come out with wins, whether it be the Connecticut or the Stanford game. And, we weren't as fortunate on Friday night. So we have to move forward, and there's nothing like getting your attention when you play a Big Four game. This is a historic rivalry. We played them 4 straight years from 19 to 22, and every single game was a 4-quarter, 1-score game. So we got them in 19, and they got us the other 3 times. Great respect for Mac Brown. In his second tenure there, the 2 of us have we've become friends. Whether it's ACC meetings, there's a Nike coaches trip that we go on that, my wife Catherine and his wife Sally and Mac and I spent a lot of time together. And, I think Mac is good for college football. He's got a very good big picture perspective from all his experience. And I think we see a lot of things the same way. Having said that, he wants to beat Wake Forest, and we want to beat North Carolina, which will be a challenge. They're a team that got off to a good start and then kind of had a 4-game skid and then kind of found themselves. They found a quarterback. They kind of established an offensive identity. They're the number 1 rushing offense in the ACC, over 200 yards a game. Hampton is who the offense goes through. But Chris Well is playing really well. They've got a good offensive line. The tight ends, they have 3 of them. They're all really good players. And they've always had good skill. North Carolina has always recruited at a high level. They've always been a really talented team. They're big and physical on the O-line. The 2 tackles are 6'7", 6'8", 330 pounds. And defensively, they had the kind of the game in the middle of the year, which was a little bit of a hiccup. But I think overall they're playing better under Jeff Collins. They have some big-time players. Eccles is an all-ACC player and a future NFL player. The boundary end Rucker, he missed 4 games, and ever since he's been back, he's been a one-man wrecking crew. He was an all-ACC player. Really like their boundary safety Lane. He is a physical, hard-hitting, tackling machine, and the corner Huzzle is also their punt returner. So it's like every Carolina team we play. Super talented. They've always recruited well. They're built a little differently. After playing Sam Howell and Drake May for 4 years, the offense is not as quarterback-centric. It's more going through the running back. But they can certainly make you pay with the play-action game. And, this will be a challenging game heading up to Chapel Hill. But we're excited, and we still have goals left that we want to accomplish this season. But clearly, if we don't win this week, those goals are a lot more difficult to get, especially winning the Big Four, which is a big deal here. So with that, I'll take questions.
Dave, is it hard late in the year to keep the team together? You still have some goals at the start, but is it harder as the year goes on?
This team has been one of the more resilient teams I've ever coached. And part of it is we have 6 captains, and all 6 captains are playing well. So I think when your leaders and your best players are still playing well, it has a way of keeping the rest of the team engaged. So Luke Pettibone's having a good season. Devontae Gordon, we will have him back this week. I thought we'd have him back last week, and then he kind of had a setback, which I think hurt us last week. So Taylor Marin is having a good year on defense. Kevin Pointer, Jasheen, Nick Anderson are all playing well. And so all 6 captains are super engaged, and I think they've helped bring guys along. And, all I can say, John, is our execution isn't what we need it to be, but it's hard to question how hard our guys play. And that, to me, is the measure of whether they're engaged or not. So, we have 3 games to go. We've won 2 out of our last 3. I still think this is an ascending football team, but we play a very tough schedule this year. One of the things with the 16 and 17 team conferences, right? Sometimes you're going to end up on the lucky side of the schedule, and sometimes you're going to get some of the tougher teams. And we got 2 of the 3 teams that are still playing for the championship game. Virginia had a good win the other day, and North Carolina's playing good football, and obviously Miami is a top 10 team, and Duke is playing really well this year. So the ACC is always tough, but I think in terms of our league schedule, I think we got one of the tougher ones, but it is what it is. And then you play Ole Miss, who I think is still, from what I've read, having a pretty good season. And then, the group of 5 teams we played this year, both of those teams are having historic years, and so every year you don't know. So, I think our UConn win certainly looks better as time goes on, and Louisiana, that's one that I certainly feel we should have been able to get, but they're a heck of a football team too. They're 8-1, and they've got an outside chance to make the college football playoff.
You guys have played relatively well on the road so far this season. Is that something that you lean into heading into these next 2 weeks?
I don't talk much about on the road, at home. We always want to protect our home turf, and we're all disappointed that we haven't played better at home this year. We won our first home game, and we haven't won one since. And we have 1 left, and we'll worry about that one in 2 weeks. And hopefully we can finish that on a positive note. But, every game counts as one, whether it's at home or on the road. And, again, when you go on the road, it's just the guys who play. And there's less distractions. And so hopefully we can break one streak before the season's over and keep another one going this week.
Dave, what are some of the keys to slowing him down Saturday?
Well, if you watch him closely and not just look at his PFF grade, right? You can't arm tackle him, and you can't throw a shoulder into him. I showed our whole team a couple of clips of him this morning of people who dive in and throw his shoulder or try to arm tackle him. He is a physical downhill back, and he is fast, and the amount of explosive plays he has, and he's also really good out of the backfield. He has 26 catches. And if you don't wrap him up, he's not a speed back, he's not a power back, he's both. And I think he's projected to be a late first round or early second round pick. And you don't get that type of draft grade if you're not really good. And again, what's different about Carolina is the last 4 times we've played them, they've been very quarterback driven, between Sam Howell and Drake May. And I think once they kind of said, hey, this is our ace, and the offense, once it started going through him, they started moving the ball and scoring points. And the quarterback's very capable now too. He can make plays with his feet, and in the play action game, he can throw the ball in the run, and he throws a really nice deep ball. But he also gets really good looks to throw it against, because if you don't commit an extra hat to Hampton, he'll run for 300 yards.
You mentioned you guys will have Devontae Gordon back this week. The other side of the ball, obviously, there's still some injuries. Bones off the left guard game was missed last week. And then you
Why don't you ask me one by one? That's a little easier because
Vanius, I would say.
Bryce is, I would say he's doubtful for this week. We think we'll have him back for Miami. There's a chance we'll have him. Capone is done for his career. That the injury he had at Connecticut, Capone and his family have made a medical decision that he is done playing football. You know, he was out there the other day. I think he's feeling better. The next 48 hours, I thought he was going to play last week. He practiced last Tuesday, and then he had a lower body injury that we did not think was that significant. And so he practiced last week at this press conference. He had practiced and kind of, again, had a little ankle twist, and we thought he'd be fine, and it just never responded. So we've given it a lot of rest. He ran earlier today, and at the corner position, your ability to break off it and change direction. And so the next 48 hours, we'll see. We may have him, we may not.
And with that, it feels like whether it was Cal last week, DBA, Louisiana, everyone kind of seems to hit the same sort of concepts going out. These like the concepts. I guess how do you go about dealing with that when you're dealing with the forward situation?
I mean, we just, for so many weeks, we didn't give up explosives. And then, we're just giving up chunks of yards. But it's the same pick your poison, right? When you have a back like Ott, if you don't commit people to the run, and then by committing people to the run, and, we're just, it just, sometimes it happens like that. I think when I went into the season, I said the position I was most concerned about was corner. And unfortunately, then at that position, you get banged up. You lose Capone for the year. Jamari's been hurt. Trayvon West, who was coming on, has an injury that cost him the season. And the guys that are playing are giving us everything they have. And they've played some good games, and they've gotten better. But Cal's skill was really good. Mendoza played really well and put the ball in the money. And then at times, right, we try to help those guys out a little bit and give them some safety help, and then they start running that power read play, and you got nobody to defend the quarterback. And so football is a game of numbers and angles and leverage, and you can't double team everybody. And they can figure out through motion, trading, and with the RPOs who has the one-on-ones. And last week we missed some tackles after those catches, which was really, like the weeks before we had been given up to catches, but it was catch and tackle. And last week we missed 2 or 3 tackles that those became explosive plays. So everyone at this point in the season is dealing with issues, and the teams that can cover up their issues the best, I don't think North Carolina went into the year thinking they were going to play their third quarterback. Okay, so it's not an excuse, but it's clearly a place that when you give up almost 300 yards passing in a half, I mean, it's not a mystery. People watch the film and they see where our pass defense is, and it's been a challenge all year. And we knew it. We knew going into it, and we tried to address it the best we could in the portal, but then we got banged up at the position. So, again, Zamari Stevenson was playing nickel for us 3 weeks ago, and now he's starting at corner. And I think Zamari's going to be a really good player. He is playing really hard. He's given us great effort, and he's made some really good plays. He had a big pick against Stanford, and Jackson Mull is playing hard too. Those guys are getting better. In a perfect world this year, those guys were going to be more in backup roles, and they got pushed to the front.
How was Donovan Green coming out of the gate last week, and will his pitch count maybe?
Yeah, we were told last week to keep him somewhere between 30 and 40 because it's the first time he's played in a long time, and he handled it well. So the good news is Donovan's back, and there's no pitch count on him this week.
Coach Deshaun said that he saw your big 4 ring, and now he wants one even more, right? What is this rivalry? What does this matchup mean to you and this program?
I just think what it means to our fan base and our students. I mean, I think for a lot of our fan base is the game. And I don't want to, since I've been here, North Carolina State was kind of the big game because we played them every year and they were in our division. And it always seemed, there was like a 5 or 6 year period that us and North Carolina State were kind of fighting for the same position in the division. And we did not play North Carolina every year. But when we play them, it's a really big deal. And, a lot of guys on our team are from North Carolina, and, some of them are mad that Carolina didn't offer them, and I told them they didn't offer me either. So, but they're playing against their friends, and for a lot of people who grow up in North Carolina, they grow up as Tar Heel fans, and so now they're wearing the black and gold, and they bleed black and gold, and they no longer are Tar Heel fans. So the in-state games always have a little more juice. The NC State game always has juice, the Duke game, and Carolina. But winning the Big Four is a really, really big deal to our guys, and I know the guys on the 19 team, they take a lot of pride that we had a run there from 2016 to 2021 that we were like 9-5 against those teams. So we kind of got off to a bad start when I first got here. Our first 2 years, I think we were 0-5, and the last 2 years haven't been as good. But there was a stretch there that we were consistently winning those games and winning the majority of them, and that was a really good feeling to go around the state and have bragging rights, and we want to have that again.
Another thing for Nick Anderson, too, just talk about what he's bringing to your program and how valuable his story is since being here.
Oh, he's playing really well. And Nick's always been a physical, rah-rah, and now he's becoming such a good football player. He's strong, he's faster, he's got really good instincts. He understands the defense better than probably any football player in our team. And so it's not only the plays he makes, he's leading our team in tackles and he's had a few picks, but just getting our team aligned. If we're ever misaligned in the back end, Nick's the guy that fixes it. And he's having a really, really good season for us.
Dave, with regard to the 24-hour rule, we've talked to players, and they all kind of have their own way of getting through a loss and getting through that 24 hours. You just said you've had a harder time with it yourself this week. What do you need to see? How does Dave Clawson get through it?
Usually Tuesday morning, we have Sundays, we give the players off, and we break down the film. And if you win, the coffee's fresher, the food tastes better, everybody's good looking, all the jokes are funny. And when you lose, you're miserable. I mean, that's part of what this job is. You never, after a game's over, the day after a game, you never have an average day. You're here or you're here. And Saturday, we had recruits in, but the day after a game like that, that's a hard day. I mean, you go home at night and I think I got home at 1:30, 1:45 at night. You don't sleep. You just replay the game in your mind, play after play after play. And it always starts with, what could I have done better? What decisions could I have made? What could I have done during the week better that could have helped our team win that game? And then you watch the film the next day, and then you kind of get in coach mode of fixing the mistakes. And then we came in Sunday and graded it and started getting ready for Carolina. And then Monday you wrap it up with the team. So you're still, even though you've moved on to Carolina, you're still living in the past a little bit on Monday, making the mistakes. And then Tuesday morning, kind of we present the whole game plan, and you have to move on. That's why I'm always in such a good mood on Tuesdays, Tony, to see you. But yeah, I mean, this is what we do for a living, and we work during the season 7 days a week, 14, 16-hour days, and you work all year long. And, I don't have to get into what coaches' hours are or how few days we have off. But all the work we do all year, the reflection is how you do in those 12 games. And when you're not successful, it hurts. It really hurts. And but you got to move on and get ready for the next one. And we've got a heck of a challenge this week.
Dave, you mentioned last week that it hurt you a lot back with forces in college football for that discussion. Obviously, last year and how this year not having a lot of your standards, what does give you hope that things can be fixed more and what things have been done to fix them before?
I mean, to be really, really honest with you, just where college football is heading with revenue share. I mean, that gives us hope, right? I mean, we're significantly behind with our collective. We're not really competitive in that way. And the revenue share and the cap, and I think all those things are really going to help us get more back to level footing with our competition. I think it's just going to put us in a much better long-term place than we've been for the last 2 years. I mean, we've lost a lot of good players the last 2 years that we never lost before 22. And all these issues and losing guys late and having a guy leave you in the spring over a lack of a collective, that's real. And this is like a 2-year period that I think our kids have battled their butts off. I think our coaches have done everything they can do to try to put our guys in the best position. And, with the House case passing and revenue sharing coming, I don't think you're going to have the discrepancies that have existed the last 2 years. And it's not just us, but not everybody has the same collective. Right? And if you look at the top 10 teams in the country right now, with maybe an exception being a team in the Big 12, all those other teams are at the top of the market. And that's, and again, I think there's more parity at the top because a team like Ole Miss can jump in with both feet, and all of a sudden now they can get players from Texas A&M and Florida and fix their defensive line. We just have not had that ability in football here to do that. And so our kids have played hard, but we're, probably, and the names, 6 to 8 to 10 guys that before this collective era would probably still be here. And I think we'd have a much different football team. And it's not to say we've still been in close games and we've still been competitive in most of them, but that gives me hope that I think that part of where college football is going, we're going to be better positioned in 25 moving forward than we've been in 23 and 24. So that's, to me, my note of optimism, the Wake Forest fans, that I think this has been a challenging 2-year spell for us, that the game changed, and to be competitive and to be where we were in football, it's really, really expensive right now. And again, we should be better than we are. To me, I think we were capable of being a bowl team this year, and we're still capable of it. But to watch the TV show on Tuesday night and be in that group, it's hard. And there's not too many teams that aren't over the top invested in a collective that are in that discussion, at least in our league, the Big Ten or the SEC. How's that for an honest answer?
Dave, in previous weeks here, we've talked about the issue of poaching and other schools coming after your players before October is even over. Do you have a sense of what your potential losses are before we even get to the portal opening? And then to Cam's point, are you now free to talk about revenue sharing as a potential way to have that conversation with some of the players about what?
Yes, absolutely. That's what we did the whole bye week. I mean, we let the players know that, I think there's unfortunately been a little bit of a theme here with our locker room that if you want to get paid, you can't stay here. And that to be true. And I want to make sure our players know with revenue sharing that is not the case moving forward. Okay, I want to give them hope that we are in the game. that we are going to be much more competitive in that regard than we've been the last 2 years. You know, I don't want to ever lose the Sam Hartmans or Rondell Bothroyds or, you know, even a Blake Whiteheart who was a free agent. You know, those are the players you need to keep. And I'm very hopeful moving forward that we're going to be able to keep more and more of those players. Now, might guys still leave because they don't like their role? Yes. But I don't want them to leave for the other reason. You know, you're always going to have guys leave. Like Quentin Cooley left because he wanted to get more carries. And oh my goodness, what a great career he's had at Liberty. He is tearing it up, and he's a great player. And, you know, that to me is part of why the portal exists. You know, he was going to be probably the third guy here. He goes to Liberty. He's the starter. He's getting 25, 30 carries a game, and he's having a great experience, and I'm so proud of him. Like, I don't want to ever lose the Sam Hartmans or the Deshaun Jones or guys like that it's over the other thing. And that's where we can't lose those guys anymore if we're going to be a competitive football program. And I'm very hopeful moving forward that we're much better positioned, again, moving forward than we have been these last 2 years.